today's show is the title of today's show is the answer to why black folks aren't attracted to STEM. Now, there's a reason why black African people are not attracted to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in great numbers. And the answer is shockingly simple to the point of lunacy. So I hope that you people tune in to find out the obvious answer just in case you haven't figured it out yet. Now, people say that, black folks don't get involved in science. They don't get involved in technology, engineering, and mathematics in great numbers. That's the big complaint, is that we spend too much time with industries like the entertainment industry. We're big on athletics. We're big on rapping, hip hop, R&B, stuff like that. But we don't really spend a whole lot of time in STEM field. And people seem to be shocked as to why that is. And I think that I'm probably going to cover this in less than 15 minutes, and then I'm going to go to callers because it's so simple. I think Colin knows, but because I see him on the line. But this is the answer. This is the shocking answer as to why. Why don't black folks get involved in STEM? And the answer is very simple. We don't own anything. I know you were really shocked by that answer, but it's the truth. We don't own anything. And it gets back to what I was saying when it comes to ownership. When you have a certain amount of responsibility, ownership, I should say, it gives you a certain amount of responsibility. And I compared it to a tenant and a landlord. If you're in a building and you're just a tenant, meaning that, like let's say you got 10 floors in your building and you live on the 5th floor, apartment E. So you're in 5E in that building. If that's where your responsibility is, then that's all you really are concerned about. Your biggest concern is, do I have my water on? Do I have hot water? Do I have water, period? Is the water running? Is the electricity on? And is the gas on? Those are your, and I guess just the maintenance of the apartment. Everything is cool. You don't have any holes or any place where mice could be running through. Just make sure that everything is cool and that everything is livable. So while you're in your apartment, there's this whole world going on for the guy who owns the building. You know what I'm saying? So his scope of responsibility is much larger than yours. So he has to worry about maintaining the electricity for the entire building. So if something goes wrong, he has to go and get an electrician, a contractor to fix it. Same thing with the gas. You got to go out and get a plumber to maintain the piping for the entire building, for everyone, not just apartment 5E, but all the apartments in the building. You got to worry about trash pickup. You got to worry about the public hallways and lights and elevators and all that other stuff. You got to worry about codes, when the city come and inspect to make sure that you're doing things the right way. There's a whole realm of responsibility outside simply based on the concept of ownership. Now, the reason why black folks are not attracted to STEM is because STEM is fundamentally the building blocks of nationhood. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. These are fields that nations use to maintain itself. So if you don't have a nation, why would black folks in droves be going into STEM fields? It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's perfectly logical why we don't do it. Now, let's change things. Here in America, the way that things are, we don't control any infrastructure. We don't own anything. Even if you own a house, technically, most people don't own the land that the house is on. And then they have eminent domain where if they want to come and do something, they can come and, basically do whatever they want to, and they're just shit out of luck. So if you have a situation where, let's say, we go over to the continent and we have a piece of land that we have, let's say, 500 square miles of land. And we have to go over there and we have to survey that land. The land is undeveloped, but the land is developable. You know what I'm saying? We can do things with the land, but the land, for the most part right now, is undeveloped. So we go over there and we see this blank slate. And what we have to do is we have to take this blank slate and figure out how we're going to build an infrastructure on that blank slate. Now, wouldn't that attract STEM field people initially? And wouldn't you need STEM field STEM fields in order for people to get into to help maintain and build that infrastructure? If you don't have the basic infrastructure, the hard infrastructure in place, then what industries are you going to have? And I'm talking about initially. What industries are you going to have for people to be involved in other than STEM? What are they going to do? They're going to play basketball? They're going to rap while the land is undeveloped? You know what I'm saying? So it's just the context. I put it to my friend this way. Yesterday we were talking, and I said, you can get a rose to grow in a swamp. It's possible. Nature is that way. Things fight to survive. But if you've planted the seeds in fertile soil, you'll get a higher yield of roses. So which one makes sense to invest in? The swamp or the fertile soil? Now, in that analogy, the swamp is America. Yeah, we can get some people to be successful in America. We can get some people to make a lot of money in America. I mean, I think Bob Johnson made $1 billion. I think he was I don't know. Was he the first billion? I'm not sure. I'm not even going to get into that. But he made $1 billion. He amassed $1 billion. I mean, he lost it. I think now he's around 500 million now. But he made it. That's what I call the rose growing up in the swamp. Yeah, we can always point to these individual examples of people who make money in America. But what I'm saying is we would produce a higher yield of people making money if we had our own nation and our own land. And so really that's it. It's not really any more complicated than that. Why are we not getting into the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in great numbers? The reason why is because we don't own the land that we live on. And there's going to be a small percentage of us. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no black people in STEM, because obviously that's not true. There are, but not in great numbers. Not compared to other races, especially not compared to white folks here in America. And the answer is really simple to me. I mean, unless a kid is naturally just attracted to that, just without any socialization whatsoever, they're just attracted to that, more than likely they're going to be involved in it. But if we want to get a higher yield of our youth involved in STEM, we got to give them a reason to get involved. And a reason to get involved is to have a nation. Because you're going to need those things in order for your nation, because a nation is not going to be built if you don't have a high yield of scientists, people into technology, people into engineering, and people into mathematics. So there it is. There's the answer to the question. It was kind of like a rhetorical question because you already know where I'm coming from. And so now this is where things get interesting, because I'm going to try to bring in Kala. But the problem that I'm having is that I'm hearing Kala through my computer and not through my headset. And that's bothering me. And there's nowhere on here where I can disconnect this damn direct thing and just call in. So this is going to be interesting. Let me try to get Kala on. Hold on one second.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's up? Now, can you hear yourself?
I'm talking right now, but I don't have my computer on. You see, I'm on the phone.
On the phone, you can't hear back like yourself on the
No, I
like
don't.
an echo.
Sometimes Blog Talk Radio does that. You can hear noise in the background. That means that somehow there was a bad connection when you first logged in. And what I would do is just basically call in again, and sometimes it goes away and use the host pin, or you can basically do this, but But like I said, what you hearing an echo? That's what you're hearing.
To you right now, and you're coming through my computer speakers and not through my headset. So I'm afraid that.
Oh, you know what it is?
If people
on the thing, you can when you hear me, it's coming through the computer. It's not going to come through your phone line. When you do the direct connect, you can only hear it through the phone line. Through the computer, not the phone line.
But what if I'm not on the phone. I have headsets for my computer.
Yeah, and so can you hear me through the computer?
Yeah, but not through my headset.
So you know what it is? There's a thing where it says you have to go in there and adjust it, and it asks you to adjust your headphones to your thing, allow access to your headphones.
Now, really? Okay.
Yeah. That's you have to do that before you start the show.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? You gotta
okay.
say, you gotta go in there and it says allow access to this and allow access to that. It says allow access to headphones and mic. It has a headphone and mic, and it gives access to it. It's a program reading it. You haven't given it access.
That is so stupid that they would design that way. Like, because once you hit the direct, there's no way for you. Like right now, I don't see any way to even disconnect the direct or either go to settings or anything. It's crazy. But as long as you can hear me, I'm good.
Yeah. So you got to do that before you press call in. You say I think when you first do it before the show goes live. You know what I'm saying? And then it allows a pop up window, and you got to turn your pop up blockers off.
Okay. Earl and Minister are telling me that they can hear us both and there's no echo, so I'm good.
Well, yeah. So you want to use the headphones from now on, you got to do that beforehand. Turn off your pop-up blockers, and a window will pop up says allow access, and it'll go right to your headphones.
All right. Now, so are you shocked by the answer that I gave to the question?
Well, I knew it was coming. It's like we all know each other, man. So we know it's coming. We know our people. You know what I'm saying? We know our people. The minister said the other night, man, he said, look, STEM is not fun and games. See, the whole thing is, our whole culture in America is about fun and games. I was just reading about another black billionaire in America. Thomas was telling me about him, knows about him. And what did he say? He said, the guy, George Lucas's wife worked for this guy. There's a couple of black billionaires in America that run hedge funds and run businesses, but you don't hear about them. There's about 4 or 5 black people who have billion-dollar corporations, and there's a few black females that got corporations in the hundreds of millions. We can never reach that point. We'll never be Dangote in America because we don't have scale. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, there'll be a couple black billionaires, and that's what they've always used for us for the longest time in America. To say, hey, look, we got a rich black. We live through them. But the bottom line is this: the chances that another black person become not just a millionaire, but even well off is like slim and next to none. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have abundance, we don't have scale, and the whole thing is this: we're bottom feeders in America. If you're a bottom feeder, what use do you have for learning engineering and science? Are you going to be able to scale? Do you have a mechanism? And then another thing is, I don't mean to run my mouth, but how are you going to basically talk about building black businesses in America, and you can't control where you live in? All the businesses in the so-called black area are controlled by everybody else, right? Because they got money and capital. They're not going to say one day, Wells Fargo is not going to pack up and leave and say, struggling black blanks, you guys come here and take our place. Right. Black people live in housing projects. If it was parity, then all the electrical engineering work done in that housing project would be done by black contractors, and black people live there. But is that ever going to happen? No. You watch episodes of Sopranos, and they'll say, yeah, we just got a contract to put all the windows in the projects over there. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, if there's money, you see what I'm saying? It's like when you have your own nation, you decide who gets the contract, and by fiat, you're going to benefit from it. It's just common sense. It's just common sense, you know. And the whole thing is, America appeals to our lowest level. Our lowest instinct is to be lazy, you know, be entertained, be foolish, you know, live beyond our means, be foolish and everything. America keeps up the black people spending beyond their means, trying to look big when we're not and everything, and all this kind of foolishness. We do. But when you say nationhood and stuff like that, I really believe when we get this land and everything like that, I believe you're going to see droves of young black men growing into STEM fields. And we're going to talk about this because David Hidden and I was talking about this a couple months ago. There are online courses you can take in everything from science to engineering, everything. You can take online courses just for yourself, and you pass these courses, you can get into an entry-level college or whatever like that. There's all these resources. There's people out there who are making knowledge and everything available, but we don't have a thirst for knowledge because we don't have a need for it. You know?
Right.
Once, like you said,
right.
Once you say we have a nation, we're going to need engineers and everything, somebody 19 years old saying, you know something, I'm going to put the video games down, I'm going to pick up the course in engineering and science and everything. I want to take up political science. You know, I want to know how governments run. What it means to governance, the science of governance, the science of politics, the science of lawmaking, all these science of international agreements and trade and diplomacy, all these things that everybody else has pulled themselves up from, we watched happen right here in the most developed country in the world, and the world just passes by.
You know what,
Colin? All we can hope for is a piece of the American so-called dream and everything, and we lost everything. Go ahead, brother.
You know what? I'm gonna give an anecdotal evidence as to what you're talking about, just on a small scale. When I was coming up in school, I wasn't really good at math, and it wasn't because I wasn't, it was just innately not good at math. It's I didn't care about math. You know what I'm saying?
Thing with me. Same thing with me.
I didn't see any practical reason for it. You know what I'm saying? I know that it was something you needed to do to pass a test in school. But I never really got into it. Like, I passed, but it wasn't because I was, enthused about it. When I got to college, I had a math teacher that was the best math teacher that I ever had, because what he did, he showed the practical use of math and how you can use math in your everyday life. And once I took his course, I never got less than a 95 in his class.
Yeah, because you saw yourself in it. You saw how you could use it. You saw how it was relevant to you.
Right. And that's the thing, the whole point of what I'm talking about.
Right.
You know? That's the whole point of what I'm talking about.
A big thing in our problem is we send kids to school and they learn a bunch of stuff. They learn a bunch of people that you could take. Let me give you an example. The Chinese and the Japanese and everybody, they have their heroes and everything like that, but they make sure they study Western history and Western civilization and all these things very, very carefully. Why? Because they knew the same situation that happened in the French Revolution and all these other people, the Spanish Inquisition, the Habsburgs, and the forming of Austria, Prussia. All these things were going to play out in their culture. So they was prepared. They said, look, we have to modernize, and we got to prepare ourselves for the fact that the world's becoming smaller, and the only way we're going to do this is we have to fundamentally transform from a society that's ignorant to a society that knows science, that we have to do everything these people over there do, else one day they're going to come over here and do it for us.
Right.
See, when you have a vantage point of a nation state, you see it clearly. You know what I'm saying? We have the vantage point of being in captivity. You know what I'm saying? So all we know is, you take an animal's in captive, all he knows is he's getting his food every day. But you take that same lion and put him out in the field, he's got to know he got to know how to hunt. He got to know the weather, the season, when the migrations come. He has to know all these things and calculate to survive. That's the tragedy about being black in America. All those survival instincts has been taken out of us. That's why I have so much respect for the Liberians. Because they took the risk and went overseas and established a nation state. And the fact that we don't know anything about this country and what we endured and everything like that, and how we persevered, how Liberians built a civilization that was unmatched anywhere on the African continent. Even in colonial Africa, none of these countries could match Liberia in level of civilization. And that is
do you know that?
Erase from history.
That's an excellent point too, and you need to build on that maybe when you do your next show, because what you just said was so profound that is, you look at a captive animal like a lion or something, or a gorilla or something, and you put it in captivity. You've taken away so much of its survival instincts. Like you said, when you're out there in the wild, when it's out there in the wild, it has to factor into what is the season. What do you do during the season? When are the seasons changing, and how do you change in terms of how you're living on the land? All of that thing is taken away once you put it in captivity.
Yes.
You know, and we're the same exact way. Yo, brother, I'm gonna put you on hold for a second because I want to bring in a couple
Put me on hold, man.
callers.
Okay, brother.
And I also want to ask you another question, but that's coming a little later on. So bear with me.
No problem. I'm here.
I believe this is my brother, Minister Dawood. Last 4 digits, 3808.
Peace and love, big brother. How you doing?
Hey, there you go. I'm learning, man. I'm learning. I'm learning this thing.
Wow, it really must have been a long time for you, man, huh?
Yeah, man. It's like first of all, the whole interface has changed, and then there's certain things like you heard me and him talking, like that they just don't give you, like once you get in it, you're in it, and there's no way to really change it.
Right.
But are you surprised by the answer to the question?
Oh no, brother. Listen, I don't know you as long as Colin knows you, but you're my brother and I love you, and I knew you was coming up with that, so I definitely ain't surprised. I want to add on though, because I do agree with you, but I think in addition is one more thing. One thing that I do know is this: any very hard to learn, very challenging pursuit can be easily mastered or eventually mastered with a good mentor. I think a lot of times with us as a people, we have such a disconnected mentality when it comes to us achieving some kind of prestige in something that's hard to do, that we'll basically kick the ladder and not try to help nobody else. In other words, like I remember when I was in when I was in the locksmithing, which I'm not in anymore. And I remember, I had the distinction of being the only black locksmith in the capital region. And so, I wore that very proudly, although I would like to have helped other brothers do it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't own the company, number one, and number two, I work in a field where you can't have felonies. So, make a long story short, I would go to other cities, right, with the nation. And, I'm always a locksmith no matter where I go. It doesn't matter if I got on a suit and bow tie or regular clothes. And I would run into black locksmiths like in Syracuse if we sold papers there or someplace like that. Man, brother, these Negroes. I'd be like, oh, man, brother, you a locksmith? She look at me funny. Yeah. I'd be like, brother, I'm a locksmith too. I've been locksmith for years. And I'd be like, nigga, like, are you crazy? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And that's, listen, it's even worse in the electronic security field. It's like when people see you, black people see you, and you try to steal their quote-unquote distinction as the only black so-and-so, it scares the hell out of them, man, because they want to be that only person that does that. And to me, we could have so many more scientists, technology majors, engineers, and mathematicians if black people would get off their damn high horse, all of us, and be like, listen, I'm here. I'm going to open up the door and share the wealth instead of looking at it as some kind of press. It's like I think that some people look at their involvement in STEM as a pair of rims and some damn Jordans.
I think, you know what, brother? I'm gonna give you my opinion on this, and you tell me whether you think this is valid or not.
Sure.
It all boils down to what I was talking about in the beginning. When you are inside of someone else's infrastructure, when you're inside of someone else's country and someone else's nation, and you develop those skills, then it is competitive.
Right.
The very basis of it is competitive. It's like when I see if you're the only black person in your field, and I'm not talking about you, I just mean in general.
Right.
And you see somebody else come and they're doing the same thing you're doing, your first reaction, and like I said, within the context of this country is, wait a minute. This dude does the same thing I do. He might even be better at it than me. Oh snap!
Right.
It's this whole competitive, like the very context of what you are involved in is competitive because you don't own it. Now imagine we have a nation, and you're a locksmith, and we need, and another locksmith comes, but you have your own nation.
Right.
Now there's no competition.
Right.
You're not competing with him. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to put on a certain, or you don't have to act a certain way. You know, let's just look at the whole corporate thing, where you got to act a certain way and be a certain way in order to keep your position because you're afraid that the next man might take it.
Right.
That doesn't even exist.
Right. No doubt.
So no matter how you slice it, you cannot get around nationhood and ownership. You can't do it.
Absolutely. You know, in addition to what you're saying, with the mentor side of it, when I first got into electronic security, I remember I really wanted to get into it because I was working at this locksmith shop and they were doing electronic security, but they didn't want me to be in it. And, you know, the average Republican white boy would listen to this radio show and be like, there they go, they're pulling a race card again. But the reality situation is that they didn't want me into it because I was very good at doing automotive locksmithing. And that basically transcends into night work. You know, people who lose keys and stuff like that for their cars.
Right.
You come out and you hit them for a whole lot of money, and that means they make extra money over whatever they made during the day. They knew that I was in a poor economic situation, but I had a skill because, you know, my dad was an excellent automotive locksmith, so it was sort of hereditary. And so they would not let me into the electric side, even though I was taking classes. So make a long story short, I was taking my second alarm class, right, with aspirations of being in this business. And this dude dropped a bomb on me, and it really just crushed my whole program. He was like, look, I don't care how many classes you take here. He said, you're really not going to make it in this field unless you find somebody to be like, have like a father-son relationship with you. I said, what are you talking about? He was like, look, you can read all the books you want to read. You could study online all you want to study. He said, but when we put you in front of a panel, you're not going to know what the hell you're doing. When we give you wires, you're not going to know what the hell you're doing. And unless you have somebody that's going to have a father-son relationship with you in this, it's not going to, you know, you're not going to survive. I was like, damn. So what ended up happening was that I ended up, one morning I got up, you know, I was like pushing myself to really study, and I happened to look at these emails I was getting, and they were talking about this course that was being offered in New York City. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I you know, and it was on Saturday and Sunday. So I was like, great, you know, because my sister still lives in Coney Island. I could go down there, take the courses, and then eventually, you know, get my license or whatever. So I did. And it turned out that the teacher of the class went to Lafayette High School. So, you know, of course he went in 1964 before I was born, but either way, we had that kind of connection. So he ended up hooking me up with the person that broke me into the field. And the person that broke me into the field was a gentleman not from America. He was, you know, he was from one of the European countries. And he took me under his wing like a son. And I can tell you the God's honest truth. I really don't think you will survive in STEM unless you have a father-son relationship or a mother-daughter relationship, because there's so many errors and mistakes that you could make. I talk to Warlord about this all the time because we talk like for 2 to 3 hours like once a week or whatever. And he had somebody like that also. And I think that the problem is, and I know you got other calls, so I'm going to get going. I think the problem is a lot of times for those of us who have been exposed to consciousness or black power is we will say things like, well, you know, I'm not going to let a white man teach me anything, or I'm not going to hang out with them because they're filthy and they're this, that, and the next thing. And the reality situation is you're cheating yourself out of something that you need, not only for your survival, but for the building of nationhood when you think like that. And so I just think that we have a lot to overcome. And these are some of the things that I'm going to talk about on my show, which is if you want to get into STEM, sure, you can read things online, man. Sure, you can get all the books that you want to. But to get the nuances of STEM, you need a mentor that's going to give you a father-son relationship, mother-daughter relationship, so they could teach you all of the tricks and the pitfalls and the stumbling blocks, the shortcuts around the pitfalls and the stumbling blocks, and make sure that you really get it, which speaks to what you said earlier when you said that you were not good in math until you met a teacher who made you interested in math. I mean, It's a common thread. That's my thought on the situation, big brother.
Well, I'm going to stick with you because I want to just back up what you said.
Sure.
And mentorship is something that transcends even STEM. And the reason why we don't understand it is because we're not involved in industry. And this is it goes all the way back around to nationhood again. If Chef Gordon Ramsay had a mentor, the chef, his mentor was Marco Pierre White. When you look at, I was looking at this show on tattoo artists called Ink something. All of the tattoo artists there had a mentor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're in the dentist field, you're going to have a mentor. You know what I'm saying? If you're in the science field, you're going to have a mentor. If you're in the technology field, you're going to have a mentor. If you're in the engineering field, you're going to have a mentor. If you're in every industry, you have mentors.
Right. There you go.
Every industry.
There you go.
So that's the problem. It's like is the same reason why we're that tenant sitting up in 5E with no clue how the electricity gets in this building. That's what we are.
Right.
All we know is that when we flick that switch, we have some lights and we can cook on our stove or whatever, and that's all we are concerned about. All the stuff and all of the infrastructure that it took for you to even do that, we don't have an interest in because we don't control it. We don't own the building. So why should we be interested in it?
Right.
And it's the same thing with STEM. Same thing with STEM. We would be producing STEM people like gremlins if we had our own nation.
Right. Because the pathways to mentorship would not be that. I mean, it would not be that steep, or it would not be blocked by any barricades. And that's the one thing that nationhood does do for you. Also, is nationhood clears the barriers to whatever you want to do. Because if you wanted to start let's just say you wanted to start because here, the unions and Collar speaks on this many times. The unions try to snuff you out from trying to bring your people in and put them all on. The unions will make sure that you don't do that because they make sure they favor somebody else's color. You know what I'm saying? So if when we have our own nation, we will be able to not only have mentor programs, but just basically have people oversee thousands of brothers and sisters come into the various different fields. And might I add, like my father would say, because my father served on a submarine, and he always tells me that when you're on a submarine, they make sure you go to school every day, and not only that, they make sure you get it. Because if you don't, if you don't get it, that means that they're not going to survive, and they could sink. So in our nation, if we had tough mentors that made sure that you got it to the highest degree, where the hell would we be in 20 to 25 years from now?
Exactly. That's why and I know you're just as confused as I am at the resistance.
Yes, sir. Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and this is from intelligent people, But let me put you on hold. I'm gonna go to the next caller. Stay with me, okay?
No doubt, brother. I'm with you.
And thank you for the call.
Yes, sir. No doubt. Peace.
Now I believe this is my brother Thomas here. Let me just make sure. Last 4 digits, 1238.
Peace.
There he is. What's up, bro?
Yeah, man.
I haven't had you on a show of mine in a long time, man.
Actually, it was a funny thing. You remember you was the first show I ever heard.
Exactly.
Through Monique, because I heard about you through Monique, and then we find out that we got people in common. My man Malik know your sister because he live in the East. He been acting like he moved back to the East, and then Queen Esther know my pops.
Yeah, exactly. That was the one that shocked me. It's like, you talk about a small world, boy. How is that even possible?
Well, like I said, but look at that, my man. He's straight from the East. He done lived in the East pretty much all his life. And his mom's live off in New Lots and Hegeman. And he know your sister.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And I probably know him. I just need to see him.
Yeah, you probably know him. When he got a big mouth, he used to play football for Canarsie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
I was listening in, and what y'all talking about specifically in terms of that message, you're talking about apprenticeship. The old way of doing things was that you had you were in an apprentice relationship Now, one of the professions that actually has as a requirement, I'm talking about as a hard requirement compared to like other professions, is the appraisal profession. Now, that's something that we're going to need, right, in a new country. But the requirements here are ridiculous. You got to basically be an apprentice flunky for 2 years, and you're not even getting paid, 1/3 of what the appraisal is, because the appraisal usually on average on residential is about anywhere from $300 to $400, and you might get maybe $75 because you're an apprentice, because you're not going to make the big bucks because the person who owns the firm has to review the reports and they're personally responsible. But here's the kicker, right? So I know someone that did a lot of appraisals for us when worked at Countrywide back in the day. Her and her husband used to churn out at one point they churned out 1,900 appraisals in a year. So I want you to think about this. Let's do the math. She did 1,900 appraisals, so it's substantial income. So, sometimes they're doing like 8 appraisals in a day because they have the equipment now where you can do it electronically with a pointer. They come and measures the space between the walls and all that stuff, and then they do their research online, and they can crank them out sometimes, like 5 of them in a day. So the way they do it, though, is kind of something that they hand down and intergenerationally. So she's like a 5th-generation appraiser because the amount of time that it takes to do it, she's only going to want to do it with someone who's really close, like a family member. So she's a 5th-generation appraiser, and she's training her 2 children. So as soon as they're done, they're going to be able to make anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 as soon as they're done, and they don't have to go to college.
Right.
And that's part of the challenge. So, like you said, because we don't own anything substantial, we can't pass it on. So she lives a very good lifestyle, and she didn't go to college. She apprenticed under her father, and her father apprenticed under her grandfather, and so they're literally able to pass it on. And if you go to New York, for instance, mostly the Italians do that. In the tri-state area, most of the appraisers are Italian.
Yeah.
So
you're 100% correct.
So that's even more of a reason. People don't understand is that the whole concept of, I'd say nation state, nationhood, whatever term you want to use, it's a jobs program. It is about economic development, and it's basically a jobs program. Imagine, because at one point, the school I went to, South Carolina State University, we actually had a program where there's a Dr. Maxie Gordon. He actually, now this shows you how backwards some of these damn schools can be. That school almost went into bankruptcy, basically, but they wouldn't fund the project at the last minute. So his brother went into his pocket to take brothers and sisters to Africa. Went in his own pocket to take them for the experience.
Wow.
Because there's supposed to be a block grant. I actually was supposed to go, but I had at the time I was in the Coast Guard, so I had to do something. I couldn't get out of it, but yeah. And and then they did them real dirty at the end. But imagine a program where you would have college students or even high school students who have an aptitude towards certain things. They go, they apprentice, right? And so now they have international experience because in order to be competitive, there's a lot of companies or a lot of jobs want you to have some international. They'll get more international than the continent, right? So having that type of access to, programs, now you're talking about this person is truly prepared to compete globally because it's going to be challenging. There's going to be certain things that you encounter on a construction site when you're trying to develop land over in Angola or in South Africa or whatever. So I think those are the things we need to be looking at. And that's why we talked about that skills acquisition, on that very, I believe it's the very first show, acquiring skills, and then that way you can transfer those skills.
And that process that you were talking about for the appraisal, like where you go those 2 years, there's a method to that madness because it's a weeding out process.
Well, the way they do it,
you're not going to go through that unless you're really serious.
But here's the thing, because of how the system works here, it's not a weeding out process because, like I said, most often than not, I want to say 80% of the time they're training their own family members, so they're not going to weed out their family member. They're going to do everything
I'm not talking about. Yeah, I'm not talking about that situation. I mean, like just in general, when you have to go
absolutely,
through that. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. There's matter of fact, there's a book by Robert Greene, the same dude who wrote the the laws of
48
power,
laws?
48 laws, and the art of seduction, called oh God, it was one of the
Is it
newer
32
books.
strategies?
No, not 32 strategies. I just read it last year. But basically, he was talking about how, you know, perfecting and honing a skill is something that just takes time and it's repetitive. And, you know, we've been kind of piggybacking on what Kyle was saying. We've been taught that everything has to be fun, amusing, you know, but in many cases, you know, when people apprentice, you know, back in the, you know, 15th century, 16th century, you were working on one repetitive task until you mastered it, and then you moved on to the next one, and you built upon a foundation. And we've gotten away from that, and that's really what's important, is that you grasp the skill. And I think Abu was just talking about that, like, you know, his father, you know, worked on a submarine, and they basically trained you every day so that way you stayed sharp. So mastery, that's the book by Robert Greene, Mastery. And that's what we have to get to the level of mastery. It's not just good enough to have a surface level understanding. We really have to get into mastery of skills.
The nuts and bolts. Like, it reminds me of Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee had a quote where he says, "I fear not the man that can do 1,000 kicks. I fear the man that can do one kick 1,000 times."
Exactly. Very
and
true.
if anybody hasn't been, I don't know if you've been into Bruce Lee, but if anybody gets an opportunity, study that dude, because that dude was way ahead of his time. And I'm not just talking about with skill-wise with martial arts. I mean, just in terms of philosophy and everything. Like, that dude was really, really the deal.
Yep.
They really haven't caught up to him yet. But I'm going to put you on hold for a second and get another caller in. Thank you for the call, bro.
No doubt.
All righty. Let's see. I'm sorry for you guys who've been on hold for a while, but keep in mind you're dealing with somebody who has not mastered this technology yet. Let's see who's been on hold for the longest. Okay. Last four digits, 051. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What's going on, Brother Hollis? This is Earl, calling from Memphis.
Hey. What's up,
hey,
bro?
How's it going? Oh, not a
I'm
thing,
good,
man.
I'm good.
This is a subject that's kind of near and dear to me, because when I first got into college, that was my thing, man. I wanted to go into, you know, everybody was telling you computer science 20 years ago. Computer science, do something in science, which is still true. But I remember I was at an HBCU, man, and I had made it all the way through my senior year, man. I was in my senior year. I was a physics major. And what happened was we went to Michigan State on a trip with the National Black Engineers. And I'm sitting at Michigan State, and I'm at an HBCU, UAPB in Arkansas, and I'm comparing the facilities and, you know, talking to, you know, because, you know, there was a lot of black engineers there, but you could go off campus and you could talk to the white kids or the people that were going to Michigan State. So I'm talking to them, and I'm comparing their preparation to what I was, you know, getting. And then that it just told me that I was totally unprepared, because, you know, if you're going in STEM or something like that, especially something a hard science like physics, you have to keep going to grad school. So, you know, those were the steps. So I kind of took a step back, and I decided that's not where I wanted to go, because I would have to actually basically start all over at another school to get the foundation right up under me. And I'm going to tell you what the problem was. At HBCUs, at everyone that I visited, and I attended two of them, the HBCUs, the science departments are controlled and ran by foreigners. My whole entire science department was Pakistani.
Wow.
And I mean,
and this is in a historically black college?
Yes. They were the whole, controlled. They were all Pakistani. I don't know what it is now, but this is like 20 years ago. So we're talking about, this is before the rush came, so it might be even worse now. But they were not really preparing us, and I connected to one of the young ladies that was in physics with me, because I'm in an HBCU, and 20 years ago there were 3 physics majors, of course. There was only 3 of us, and she went ahead and she graduated, went ahead and got the degree, and she was going to grad school. And basically what she is now is she is just a grinder in a lab, basically. I mean, she doesn't have the background and the foundation to do high-level research. And she doesn't have the background and foundation to actually, obtain a PhD. To me, I think there's a foundation in the sciences that if you don't get, you're going to be off. And that goes back to what the brother Minister Dawood was saying. If you don't have anybody watching your back and telling you the steps that you need to be taking early, your whole game is going to be off. And I think one of the things that it's like when I first, I'm like Minister Dawood, I got 5 kids too. Now, my 2 oldest daughters, I was kind of like my parents, I was like, do what you feel, and I encouraged them to go into STEM, but I didn't force the matter, you know what I'm saying? So they went, now my one that's in college now, she's in STEM. The other one, she just got back in college because she tried to do the psychology thing, and I told her, you don't want to do that. But she, kids will be kids sometimes, but now she's going back for nursing. So she kind of started listening now. But I took a whole different direction with my 3 youngest. I didn't give them a choice. I did not give them a choice. I started telling them, not only did I tell them, you of course when you're 18 you can do what you want to do once you get out. But I started conditioning them not only on the degree that they would be pursuing, but actual schools that they would pursue. And what's so funny is after doing that for 3 or 4 years, it just became something that they look forward to. And, it's something that they read up on the school, they follow the school, what's going on at the school that I picked out for them, because I remember if anybody, I know everybody listened to John Henry Clark, he always mentioned that the Colorado School of Mining was one of the best engineering schools in the world. I had never heard of it before I heard him say something about it. And I looked it up, and most of the kids that go there are foreigners. It's about 50% foreigners. So I wanted one of my kids to go there. So I told my son that's where he was going. And my son is, a typical teenage boy. He's hard-headed. But he has accepted that as his reality now. And as he started his first year in high school, and he has told all his teachers what he needs to do to get prepared for that school in the 9th grade. So I think the thing that you say about that, if we had a nation, we could have a program that would actually be second nature as far as kids going into STEM and doing that. They wouldn't have to find their own way. And then, like the minister said, there would be a whole group of people to help direct them to what they need to do and the proper way to do it. And there wouldn't be and there's another thing, there wouldn't be, like we say about the regulations. One thing that we have to learn, regulations are there for people's safety, but they're also used to regulate your black butt being in that field. and I mean, because if you actually look at regulations, I mean, some of them are black and white, some of them are in a gray area where they can be interpreted. And that little area of interpretation is what you need to understand that it can be used against you. And let me see, there's something else I wanted to tell you about that. Oh, well, I kind of lost my train of thought. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, just the focus as being a nation, as if you have a nation that you can kind of direct your people. They have a focus, and you can kind of get them, like Colin said, it would be a whole drove of people popping into STEM fields because they would have something to do. Right now, this is what I want to say. We have a second nature of, we actually know that we're in America, as many black people try to say they're integrating and all this, we know that we're in America. And one of the things that Minister was saying about you seeing somebody else in your field, you know that there's only so many of you that they're going to hire. Mm-hmm. And if you look at anything on social media, things like that, or anything, let about 4 or 5 black people enter and see the difference in attitude among the white people. It changes. It's no different if 4 or 5 of you move into their neighborhood. If 4 or 5 you go into because see, if one comes, they can justify you being there as saying, well, they just had to. He's a token, or whatever, however they used to say about when you got in college. They could say that, but if 4 or 5 get in there, then they start just saying, well, maybe they're just smarter. And if you start doing a better job than them, you're a threat.
Oh yeah,
you're a threat from the top to the bottom, and
exactly
they're gonna act accordingly. So it's a second nature. We could say that everything. Even the people, we can say that we act like we might be integrating or we might be in a fair environment, but we know second nature. Black children know that there's only so many jobs out there in STEM field. No matter if you can get a degree, just like Minister said, you can get a degree, you can do all the studying, you can be an A student, and it doesn't matter if they won't hire you. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's
so I got about 5
minutes.
minutes.
Get to the other caller.
Yeah, I got about 5 minutes left. Thank you for the call, brother. I'm going to try to get this last caller in. He's been waiting patiently. Last 4. Oh wait, it's no digits. It's S.T.E.M 1.
Greetings, Black African Power.
Oh, okay. What is that? S.T.E.M 1?
S.T.E.M. You know what he was? It was I think his name was S.T.E.M. He was pretty much one of the last African kings. I just changed it a little bit. Yeah, he was going against the bunch of the powers that be.
Mhm. So what's up, bro?
How y'all doing? Yeah, I heard a lot of good information, and my thing is let's just get it started. I want to try to bring my piece because you guys have been making me go ahead and be humble because you're putting out a lot of good information. And
before you go on, I just want to let people know because we all know each other, but this is Chef Rob, the great Chef Rob.
No, you guys are great, man. You guys put out good information, every one of you, and it just makes me just sit back and just listen, man, because it's like maybe I need to examine some more stuff within myself and make some more adjustments because I want to do all I can to make this come true, man. And I
know exactly what you're talking about, bro, because when Minister gets on, when Carla gets on, when Thomas gets on, them brothers is bringing some heat.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to step your game up if you're going to be competing on that level.
I kept saying that, man. I said, "Oh my goodness, man, let me just keep quiet, man." But it's all about with this. It's all about just getting the message out there because we need. I was thinking about some things that you guys were saying before about being the best and the brightest, and I at first I was like, let's just see what we got, go ahead and see what we can go ahead and pick through. Then I took a look at a couple of things, and I was like, nah, we need top-notch individuals first, and then let everybody else fall in line because some people ain't gonna get it. I don't need too many people challenging me about going ahead and have my own nation. When you go ahead and complain about all the things here and they doing nothing about it. My biggest thing is getting that piece of land and working it to where we grow what we wear and we grow what we eat. And we just go from there because I just heard the brother talk about the mining school. I kept hearing Dr. Henry Clark talk about that mining school in Colorado. And we need to have our own group in there or one thing I see that's really, 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 really educational are these YouTube videos. We can get a lot of information from there if you can't even get into that school. Because like with my fish project, man, that's where I got most of my information from.
Yeah, it's very useful, man. We got like a minute 40. I wanted to tell you something. I didn't do the live broadcast only because I'm trying to figure it out. Like I was working on it today.
Yeah.
But probably I'm going to see if I can try to do it on the next show. Because I noticed that the Real Talk Solutions does it too, but they do it in a way so that they don't have a webcam. I don't know how they do that, but that's what I'm trying to figure out. But I'm going to have to wrap things up because I got like a minute left, so just bear with me 1 second, brother. Yeah, I just muted Chef because I want to do an outro here, let y'all know. Yeah, man, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and they raised an issue about, now this person I respect and this person is intelligent, but it gave me an example of just how fearful we are because their whole thing with getting our own nation is they're afraid that the CIA and the white people will never allow us to come into power. And I'm going to address that in my next show. But there's a lot of people out here who are into this, and they're really fearful because of all the things that's happened to us. So I want to address that in my next show and address it directly, all of the fears and concerns about actually having your own nation. Because there's something about this that I definitely want to address that's a core issue, and I'm going to do that next week. But in the meantime, I'm out of here, and I'm going to leave you all the way that I normally do.
Hey, hold up. Hey, brother, hold up for 1 second. We had a guy that was on the line the whole show, 479 area code. Let him say something first. He had his hand up.
479.
The question mark means the person had the hand and they want to speak. So
okay. Like am I going to get cut off because my time ran off?
No. It's over. It gives you like 15 minutes afterwards.
Oh, okay, good. All right, hold on. Let me put him on.
I did. I opened him up. 479.
Hey, this is Darren from Arkansas.
Oh, good, Darren. Good.
Hey, I had a off-topic question I wanted to ask Chef Rob.
All right. You want to get Chef Rob back on? Okay.
There he is.
Chef Rob.
I didn't really want to go off-topic, you know.
Hey, I'm still here.
Go ahead. Go for it.
I wanted to ask him if he had a good lobster thermidor recipe.
All right. Oh, I'm going to have to look that one up.
I wanted to hit him up, like, offline because it's more like a personal question.
I'm going to have to check into that. I don't have that, 'cause no, not offhand. I check for some. I got some good references, but the only thing keep coming to mind is some lobster bisque. So and a couple other things, but
yeah, I want to be down with that too. I want to be down with that exchange of information as well, because I do my thing over here.
Oh, you know what I've been trying to do, like with all of those recipes and stuff you guys been putting up, man, them damn things are great. I've been going ahead and making recipe cards out of some of them, and I got to look and see the last one. But yeah, I'm just trying to go ahead and make recipe cards out of them and try to go ahead and hook some of that stuff up and do some demos with those, man, because it's some awesome stuff.
Yeah, man. Since we on this topic, the whole goal for that group, to me, Chef, is I'm trying to create this menu, this African fusion menu.
Yeah.
Looking at all of these dishes and trying to come up with, and maybe even creating some new dishes.
See, one of the reasons why I'm real supportive of that, because that fusion thing would go ahead and get us to talking to other individuals. So like we coming over to the continent, we can go ahead before we get there. We can sit down at the table and have a common meal where everybody recognizes what's going on, and that just go ahead and cuts down on like what's that. So you can go ahead and get past that, so we can start talking about what we need to do. So something I want to go ahead and I'm trying to work on it now by getting seeds from different plants that are grown in Africa and the Caribbean, and go ahead and see how we can grow those. And that's another avenue that we can have to go ahead and bring in revenues to go ahead and set up when we set up our own farms. So to go ahead and have the different dishes and different vegetables from other places. Think about that.
Hey, Chef Rob.
Yes, brother.
Hey, I own Arkansas. So whenever you get ready to do that, get with me and we can make that happen.
Oh, yeah. I must start looking at that real soon, man. Real soon. Come up with about
Your brother.
Yes.
The brother who's speaking is. Are you on Facebook?
Yes.
Hit me up, or hit up the B.A.I. group, whatever.
Yeah.
If we're not connected,
I'm already signed up for B.A.I.O. I just haven't finished my profile yet, so I'm gonna finish that probably tomorrow or something. But it's Mark. Your last name Gooney or something like that?
Gonny, Gonney.
Yeah. Okay. I'll send you a request here.
Yeah, hit me up and I'll put you in the group.
Okay. That thing about the mining, that's extremely important, man. That's extremely important. We have to get involved in that kind of stuff, man. You can't stress how much these people are going ahead and taking stuff from the ground and going ahead and doing what they're doing to it, and getting the Chinese to go ahead and fix it up and then selling it back to us, man. That it's just super crazy. We got to go ahead and stop that.
Yeah, everybody's on, by the way. Everybody.
Yeah, all the disciplines of the earth we have to master. There's not one thing that, one discipline, one field, anything on this earth, anything in the universe we have to master. I don't give a dang where it's from. Anything that's knowledge, every philosopher that's ever written a book, everything that we have to, it's called university. When they call it a university, a university means you learn everything in the universe. You know what I'm saying? But you have your own base of operations to manifest it and produce a civilization. You know, that's what universities are for. That's what Timbuktu was. A university. Sankara was a university. You know, universal learners, not just learning just certain things. You got to learn everything on this earth. You can't just leave all the science and technology in the hands of another race, and you basically just concentrate on one thing.
And you especially can't do it. You can't do it if you control a piece of land. You can't do it. You have to know it.
Yeah.
You have to.
But like one of the things I was talking about with the kicking out the school thing, the important aspect of that is the other students that they will meet, the connections that, because you got to understand,
associations and connections.
Other nations are sending their best and brightest to the best schools here.
Right.
To get the education. So
and
if you're talking about nation building, you need to. I understand that it's going to be our nation, but you have to have connections with engineers who are used to
all over the world, from all over the world.
You know,
let me say this, Earl. Earl, let me say this while I got this on my mind. I'm going to say this when Earl was talking before. There's an old question. Remember how they always saying African students are coming over here outselling African Americans in engineering and stuff like that? Duh, they have a nation. You know what I'm saying? We just answered that question right there. If we had a nation or not, we would outstrip everybody. You know what I'm saying? As far as math, everything would go up exponentially. You know, math scores would go up. Everything would go through the roof. You know what I'm saying? So while people talk about Nigerians, we'll outstrip all of them.
The other part of that, Collar, is Nigeria is not going to send no second-rate student over here in the engineering.
Right. They're sending their best.
Of course, our whole entire place is going against their top of the line. You know,
right,
so
and then no one sees that. No one sees that. They use that just to bash us and divide us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even make sense.
And let me just put this into the atmosphere. Let me put this into the atmosphere. Are geniuses. Let's say we have a child who's a genius at 10 years old in mathematics and whatever. What the hell are we going to do with him?
Well, good question, brother. I've been saying this for years, and let me speak to that if I could. I've been saying this for years because people be like, oh, we got these geniuses doing this and we got them doing that. We need to homeschool them and put them in our own schools. Well, here's the thing. The thing is, if you're under somebody else's infrastructure and national borders, and you're going to homeschool them or whatever.
Afrocentric school.
Yeah, exactly. What corporation are they going to then qualify to work for? And if you say, okay, well, they're going to work for themselves, well, then who the hell is going to buy from them? You know what I'm saying? This is the kind of stuff that to me, people don't be thinking hard enough on. Maybe, we got these geniuses doing this, that, and the next thing. You have to give them an entire nation for them to function in, for that genius actually be fully manifested. Otherwise, just like the HBCUs, they're nothing more than harvest for some white corporation. Period.
Yeah, a plantation, a seasoning ground. You remember. So we were going to talk about this. The HBCUs were never created to build Black America. They were created to create a buffer class of semi-educated people to pacify the black masses. That's it.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, training grounds for white corporations.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah. Hey guys, I don't know if I ever told. I told Kyle this story, but when I was in school, I went to South Carolina State, and I was the presiding officer over the colloquium series. So they'd have people come in and talk about what they did and kind of give people a little bit of insight what they had going on in the industry. So someone had the nerve, the audacity, the unmitigated gall to ask about being an entrepreneur. And so there was this lady, I'm sure she meant well, right? She worked for like Bowater Corporation. She was like she's a CPA, I believe, or auditor. So she's like, well, what I tell you is just to go ahead, get you a job, get you some benefits, and businesses fail in the first 2 years, and you probably just want to go ahead and get a job. And it's like, wow. It's like, whoa.
Oh, I know. I got the thing for. I got the thing for that. Thing for that.
Oh my God, that was it. Exactly.
Oh, we actually got that.
Me and Colin said like we were gonna have that when someone like would say something real stupid. Straight fail.
That's a classic. That's a classic. Everybody has access to that, by the way. Everybody has access to that sound wave on your show.
Yeah, exactly. And so when she said that, everybody looked at her like they wanted to stand upside down and look at her and try to understand her. Like, what? Did she just tell us that? Like, there's no hope. You got to go get a job. Now, how does that work? Now, this is back in the 90s. Most people who probably graduated back then are not with the same company they start out with, if they're even still working for someone. They probably had 4 or 5 jobs since they graduated. But it was like, it was well-meaning advice. She had, probably just graduated 5 years ago, previous to herself, and she was just doing what she thought was trying to give you the best advice she knew. And it's no different than, parents who got, roots in the South. There's a very different way that they think about rearing children, and a lot of it based in slavery. So I can't get mad at her for what she said, but it was just very disappointing that when you go into school, that this is the best you can come up with. You got a gun in your face. This is the best you can come up with.
So we're gonna go off in like a minute, so you might want to wrap it up, brother.
Yeah, we'll.
Oh, we getting ready to get cut?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know how I do. I'll end it the way that I normally do, where we are here with my brother Malcolm talking about let's do this in this world, not the other world, not another planet, right here.
We declare our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
Talk to y'all brothers later.
Of course. Bro.